3, the police department inspected Mostafa's vehicle and found brake failure. Mostafa's foot was on the brake the whole entire time. And the police department found out that the vehicle would not stop. There's brake failure. But 2.5 years ago, they buried these body cams. They buried their finding. And they went with a narrative where they falsified a whole entire case. Well, today, we're taking a deep dive into this case. And we're finding out that the police department is covering up for the officer that cut and muted Mostafa's dash camera. Really quick before we go into the courtroom and what they're saying in court during a Brady motion about the missing body cams, I want to take you into the toxicology report. This is Mostafa's toxicology report. And the toxicology report show there is no alcohol and there is no drugs. And specifically what Mostafa and Dorothy are passing back and forth inside the vehicle is specifically a hemp cigarette. This is Mostafa Al-Jazaary. This is a toxicology report. So we zoom in. Let's zoom in here. Blood alcohol non-detected. Blood alcohol non-detected. There's no alcohol in Mostafa's system. We zoom in into the THC. THC 0.0003. What they're smoking inside the vehicle is hemp. There's a difference between weed that has THC. There's a difference between hemp that has 0.0003. So what they're smoking inside the vehicle is hemp. This is a toxicology report. So we find out there's no argument inside the vehicle. They've lied about an argument inside the vehicle. We find out that this is a vehicle accident, that Mostafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. Mostafa is not speeding. Mostafa is not under the influence. This is a vehicle accident, and that Mostafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. Now we go back to the dash camera. The dash camera is clearly cut. They muted this dash camera. They've lied about there's no audio. Today we're finding out there is audio. Now, we go back to the dash camera itself. This dash camera is clearly cut. When you measure the frames, you find out that at 8.0, the camera facing inside the vehicle stops rolling. It cuts off while the outside is still rolling. So what they've done here is they specifically, the reason they cut 17 frames out of the vehicle, inside the vehicle, out of the dash camera, the camera facing inside the vehicle, is because they want to tell you that Mostafa did not have a facial reaction. So you take 17 frames out of the dash camera, camera facing inside the vehicle, and you want to tell me that he has no reaction to the vehicle accident. Well, let's take a deep dive and look at Mostafa's reaction. Because when we look at Mostafa's reaction right before, specifically Officer Chad Mason took 17 frames from the camera facing inside the vehicle, you see that Mostafa is panicking. Mostafa sticks his tongue inside his cheeks in panic. Mustafa's jaw is wide open. Let's take a look at Mostafa inside the vehicle. This is Mostafa. You see that he sticks his tongue inside his cheeks. His jaw is wide open. He's panicking. Now, the hypocrisy in all this is that we're sitting here litigating a dash camera that's cut by the police department. Clearly, Mostafa is reacting to a vehicle accident. Now, a doctor, Dr. Speckard, came into this case, looked at this dash camera, looked at the whole entire case, and put an affidavit that Mostafa's reaction is consistent with someone reacting to a vehicle accident. This is an affidavit in Mostafa's file. We'll get into what Dr. Speckard said at another podcast, but this is an independent doctor that's testifying that what we're watching here is a person reacting to a vehicle accident. Now, you don't need Dr. Specker to tell you that. Clearly, his jaw is wide open. He sticks his tongue inside his cheeks in panic. Clearly, he's panicking. But the problem here is that Officer Chad Mason cut this dash camera. This dash camera, the camera facing inside the vehicle, it's cut while the camera facing outside is still rolling. We're all on the same page. This camera we're all looking at a camera facing inside cuts off while the outside is still rolling. This doesn't happen. Someone cut this dash camera. And Officer Chad Mason tells you, I took the dash camera back to my car, violated the chain of custody, sat on it for 2 days. Well, today we have a dash camera that has no audio, has 17 frames missing from inside the vehicle, and is cut before impact. And what we're going to do, now that we have that information, we're putting this information on the table, let's go into the courtroom. And let's see what defense attorney Brad Haywood is telling the presiding judge, Judge Carol Weimer. Because apparently we made a lot of noise. A lot of noise leaking out these body cams, or bringing up that the police department falsified the whole entire case. Now, the county, Mostafa was set to trial back in December of last year. All of a sudden, Mostafa trial gets pushed. The county assigns Mostafa a new lawyer, and his name is Brad Haywood. Now, at that point, our channel is going viral. Evidence show, since we entered and leaked out those body cams, we're leaking out those body cams, the channel start going viral. The community is shocked. It's disturbed at a fact that a county lied and falsified the Mostafa Al-Jazaary case. Clearly, you cut and muted this dash camera. Clearly, you crushed and staged the vehicle. Clearly, you falsified Mostafa's statement. Clearly, you weaponized children, a 9, a 10, 14, and a 16. And it's not our word against the police department. No, I have the files in the server, and I'm leaking them through this podcast. The county is panicking. So Mostafa's trial gets pushed. The county gives Mostafa a lawyer, Brad Haywood, and they gave Mostafa just about $100,000 for this defense attorney, Brad Haywood, to hire an independent expert to reconstruct the vehicle that was blocked by prosecutor Sarah Sammy 2.5 years ago when there's a judge order. We watched the body cam where prosecutor Sarah Sammy is blocking the reconstruction of the vehicle accident. A dash camera that clear evidence show that it was cut and muted, and they have the audio. So the county gave just about $100,000 for the defense attorney, Brad Haywood, and for him to hire independent expert for the reconstruction of the vehicle and the extraction of the full dash camera with the audio. Now, the question that we're asking is, was Brad Haywood, the defense attorney, and the money pumped into this case part of the cover-up? I mean, think about what's happening here. Mostafa was set to trial back in December, and then all of a sudden, body cams are leaked out of the police department server, and the trial gets pushed. A public defense attorney from the county is given to Mostafa, and they gave Mostafa $100,000. He was already scheduled for trial. A person that's already scheduled for trial is given just about $100,000 in a public defender to litigate and find out and get to the bottom of what's going on here. The question that we ask, was this part of the cover-up? Now, when we look into what the defense attorney did, it sure sounds and look like it's to contain this case. Brad Haywood puts in a Brady motion and includes everything that we've been litigating on this platform, on this podcast. that the statement of Mostafa Al-Jazaary was falsified, that the vehicle is crushed, staged, blocked from getting reconstructed, that this dash camera is cut by the police department. And in this Brady motion, to a certain extent, he incorporated everything that we're talking about on this podcast, that the children are weaponized by the police department. Now, what's disturbing, and the reason that we say this is the county containing this case and covering up for what they've done, is because Brad Haywood goes behind closed doors and is not pursuing the missing body cams that's going to shed light and show that this police department falsified a whole entire case. Now, this is not my word against Brad Haywood. I have the order. Let's go into the order really quick. This is an order that was submitted after the Brady motion. All right. Order on defense motion for production of Brady material, missing body cams. All right. Here, if you go specifically to page 4 out of 5. So if you go 4 out of 5, you realize that right here, request 18, defense request body-worn cameras and other recording of the crime scene processing, interaction with child witnesses, or dash cam components. Court ruling, Judge Weimer granted him the Brady motion. So the prosecutor has to give the defense attorney those body cam. Specifically, it's called crime scene processing. The body cams on the scene. The defense attorney withdrew. Wait a minute. Why would the defense attorney withdraw body cam? Tells the prosecutor, I don't need the body cams that's going to shed light on officers falsifying this case. And what you're talking about is a lot. Today, what we're going to do, we're just giving you one example into what's missing out of the Mostafa Al-Jazaary case. What the police department cut, spliced, and muted before uploading to the server. What you have missing in the Mostafa Al-Jazaary file is body cams where it shows the children were weaponized by the police department. And through the case file, we narrowed it down to finding out that it was Officer Romero that weaponized the children, a 9, a 10, a 14, a 16. I mean, what's coming out of this case? The child says that Mostafa, that the child was told by investigator Romero, Javen, the 14-year-old, is told that Mostafa ran away. The investigator is telling these kids that Mostafa ran away, left their after the accident, that Mostafa ran away, left their baby sister to bleed to death. And if Mostafa didn't run away, the police could have saved their baby sister. Imagine, the police are sitting there telling children before they walk them into a forensic interview. The problem here is Mostafa was in a coma. Mostafa was helicoptered to the hospital. Those police officers, specifically investigator Romero, is weaponizing the children against Mostafa before walking them into a forensic interview.